are 2-1 overall. They were idle last week. Bearcats head to Huntington, West Virginia Saturday. They'll be facing Marshall. 5 p.m. Eastern game, also produced by CBS Sports Network on Facebook. Coach, thanks so much for joining us on the call. If we just get your thoughts on how your open week went as you prepare to head to West Virginia to face Marshall, please.
Like most open weeks, it was good. We had some time to work on ourselves, I think, first and foremost, and some time for even though it's only the third week of the season, for guys and to get away, or coaches to recruit a little bit, and hopefully just kind of mentally be able to, for coaches, spend some time at home, and maybe even for the players to get around their families a little bit more. And sometimes it kind of interrupts your routine, but we haven't had a normal routine, playing a Thursday night game to start with, and things have kind of been, a little bit different in our entire routine. So we're excited about getting back into the mix here and trying to get it back into a normal routine of game weeks.
Take questions for Coach Fickell, please. Star 1 on your telephone keypad will put you in the queue, and then the operator will introduce you.
Our first question comes from Dan Tortora of wakeupcalldt.com. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
How are we doing?
Doing well. Just to, obviously coming out of the open week, it was kind of an interesting week for college football. UCF having the Philly special, a version of the Philly special on the other side, and a loss to Pittsburgh, and then to see what happened with Tulane and Houston. Just what you can say about, this conference and maybe college football as a whole. Did you get a chance to, maybe catch up on any of those games in the bye week and see that there's some shakeup that's happened this week?
Bye weeks are always unique, and I think everybody kind of handles them a little bit different. And I don't mean that with their team. I mean on what exactly they do. I don't like to watch a ton, especially the teams that we're going to play, because it's not relaxing to me. But nonetheless, had a chance to see some of those games outside of my own kids' games. Try to spend a little more time doing that. But I think what it tells me, is there are some really upper level, obviously, teams right now in the country, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but I just mean the blue bloods, talent-wise, and then there's a lot of others that have to play really good football and do things really well, and play as a team more than anything else. And the discrepancy is probably not nearly as great as a lot of people would think, outside of some of the big timers. But I think for our league, hopefully people took a lot of notice, and I don't mean that because UCF had a tough one against Pitt, but I mean the SMUs of the world, and obviously what Tulane and what kind of game that was. So I think that all in all, I think for myself, I saw a little bit of it, but it reminds me of, hey, what's really important is what you can do and what you do with your team and what you do with your talent, because there's not as big a discrepancy as a lot of people would think.
And you brought up the bye week. You try to do something that's relaxing. You spoke about your family. We talk with coaches so much about wins and losses. When you get to take a step away for a second, just what you could say, what is the relaxing part of it and the importance of family for you? Because we don't talk to coaches enough about the fact that you're people too, and you got to, obviously take care of family.
Well, sometimes we're people, but it just depends. I mean, for me, it's you would say relaxing, but when you got 6 kids and you got a crazy house, sometimes it's not quite as relaxing. But I think your opportunity to spend some time, actually, for me to see my sons play or my daughter play, and is not something that you can normally get done a lot of times in your preparation in game weeks, just the way things kind of shake out and the way our schedule is. So for the bye weeks, for me, that's more so what it is whether I can see them play or even have an opportunity to hang out with them in some way, somehow, is what we like to do.
Well, thank you, Coach, and good luck moving forward this week.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next question is from Chuck Landon of the Herald-Dispatch. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good morning, Coach.
How are we doing?
Good. Now that you've had plenty of time to look at film, what's your evaluation of Marshall?
Very talented. Obviously, we played them 2 years ago here, and they stomped us pretty good. And I think they were very talented, obviously, then, and I think I see the very similar things. That's why I said earlier that there's not as big a discrepancy in what people think, and I don't just mean that from our league, but I mean that in college football in general. And, so for Marshall, to me, I mean, I see a lot of talent. I think, obviously, quarterback-wise, running back-wise, and receiver-wise is where it starts. But I think for Marshall, the guys they've got up front, offensively and defensively, returning, and guys that have played a lot of football, maybe is what makes them who they are and the strength. And in the past, you'd probably say the Randy Mosses of the world and the athletes that they've had over the past few years. I think this team might be a little bit different. They still have those athletes, maybe not as nationally known yet in some ways, but I think up front on both sides of the football is where they're better than what I've seen. Not just I've seen what we've played this year, but even from what I know in the past, we've been playing them 2 years ago.
Well, what's it going to take your team? What's it going to take the Bearcats to win this game?
Well, we got to score more points than they do, obviously. I think that's pretty simple. I don't like to overdo this game. I mean, it's still a little bit early. Obviously, we had the bye week, but for the bye week, we really focused on ourselves and try not to get too far ahead. I think there's a balance there. But I think we got to go and we got to play. We got to play cleaner than what we have. I think we had 11 penalties in the last game that we had, and I think when you get against really good talent and things like that, you can't put yourself in those situations. Especially the ones that I call are undisciplined penalties, the free snap penalties or the post snap penalties, not the aggressive ones. And when you're playing somebody as talented as Marshall, and you put yourself at 1st and 15, it's going to be really difficult. 1st and 20 on a holding call, 1st and 5, giving them those things that instead of making them try to earn everything that they get. I mean, that's for me from the get-go, from the start. It's got to be, we got to do that, especially going on the road.
Right. Thanks, Luke.
Sure.
Our next question comes from Fletcher Page of the Cincinnati Enquirer. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hey, Luke. How's it going?
How are we doing, Fletcher?
I'm good. It's been a couple weeks since Kyreek had his scare at Ohio State. I just wanted to ask how he's doing.
He's doing good. I mean, he's got a lot of things that are going on and just trying to figure out. So we know nothing else right now. We got some big meetings on it actually this week, but he has been really good, has felt really well. We just haven't, got ourselves in a position where, our doctors and people feel like, hey, we can move forward with this until we know a little bit more. And we have some, some tangible things to say why and what is going on, as opposed to, hey, where do we go in the future?
And do situations like this maybe show you the measure of your program where you've got a first-year player, he's had something that was sort of out of his control, and now he's had football kind of taken away from him for a little bit? I mean, how important is the program for a young man like that kind of going through circumstances like this?
Well, I think it's big, and that's what we want to have here. And, he's a unique one. When he walked in the door here, and his first thing to me was, I just want to play, Coach. I said, well, that's not exactly what we're all about here. We know everybody wants to play, but wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself and things like that where we can, take care of each other along with playing, I think maybe is being a little bit more of a realization to him and to others around him. So we try to find the silver lining in it, try to find the positives in it. Hopefully there are a lot of them. Obviously it's tough on a young man. It's tough on us for, we could really use him. But how do we look at it as a positive? Is what can the program do for him, and how can he still be a part of it?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Leo Haggerty of It's Sports Magazine. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, Coach.
How we doing?
I'm doing fine, Coach. Thanks for asking. It seems like you're getting all the bye week questions this week, but does the NCAA need to legislate 2 bye weeks into all Power 5 and Power 6 team schedules just for safety reasons?
You know what? It's one of those things that I don't spend. I'm not on a whole lot of the committees right now, and I don't know how much of a say that, we would have as coaches. Don't get me wrong. At times they can be really good. At times they're just an interruption to what you do. I know there's a reason for them in some ways, but I also think that we all are benefiting from, as coaches and hopefully as programs, from another reason that you have buys. That you create another week of college football and more revenue, I guess you'd say. Is there a balance to it? Is it, for programs to, hey, it gives you a chance to have a break? Yeah, there's a lot of things there too, but also I think it does some other things for college football, and we can't complain about it as a coach in some ways and then reap the benefits from it in other ways. So I don't know. This is the first time I think I've had two buys. I think it's going to be one of those ones where, after the season you kind of evaluate it and say, okay, now do we have to treat things different because you have two buys? For us, I like to get in a routine, and right now it's kind of, interrupting the routine a little bit.
Coach, last question, and thank you for your time today. On targeting calls, should the people making those decisions up in the booth only be able to look at replays in full speed? The game's not played in slow motion.
Yeah, I think they've done a better job. My thing is I would like to see it go to like a, personally like a basketball, where if it's not a flagrant, shot, then I think that you get the penalty, but watch ejecting kids. So they've actually done a better job. We had it overruled in our last game. I believe it was in some ways a target, got hit in the head, but it wasn't flagrant and it wasn't forceful. So where maybe it didn't benefit us, I still think it's better, because I don't think that our best thing is to throw kids out of games. I know we're trying to clean up the game, but I think that the way they are right now, at least they're not ejecting guys for, even when they slow it down. I think it's at least a little bit cleaner to say, okay, let's give the benefit of the doubt and not eject kids from games.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Take one more from Coach Fickell, please.
And our final question is from Grant Traylor of the Herald-Dispatch. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hey, Coach. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just looking, it's an interesting scenario with both you and Marshall having a bye week. It's kind of unique in that sense, especially this early in the season. What's that fine line for a coach between, a team being rested and enough rusty going into a game following a bye?
It's tough. I mean, I talked to a couple of coaches around the country this past week, and they're asking me, so how are you guys handling the bye week? We haven't done a great job coming out of bye week. What are you guys doing for bye week? And then I'm asking them the same thing. And there's not an exact science. I think it has a lot to do with where your team is and what you think your team needs. You've got to plan as you go into the season. I don't want to change the plan because, hey, we're not playing well, or hey, we're losing, so we need to practice 5 days instead of 3 or whatever it is. But I do think you got to get a feel for what you believe your team needs, and what maybe our team needed was maybe different than what Marshall's team needed. Either way, I think that routines are a good thing. I know for me it's really big, and sometimes your buys do interrupt those routines, but you got to find a way to make it a positive for you and your program.
Also, Marshall's run defense over the last couple of years has traditionally been very solid. What have you seen from them this year with a decently fresh front seven for them?
No, they've done a great job. Obviously, they play physical, they play tough. I think they've got some forces to be reckoned with inside. I think that obviously makes it a lot better. But you can tell that they're going to be cued in to stopping the run. They're playing 8-man box and a lot of things, and I think they do a really good job at bringing safeties down in different spots. And I think that makes it difficult on your run game as to who you're identifying and who you're working towards, because sometimes you don't know if a safety's coming down from the field, if he's coming down in the middle, or if he's coming down outside. So the combination of what they do really makes it difficult, not just in the passing game, but also in the run game, because it's a lot about IDing and figuring out and making sure you're comboing and blocking to the right guys. And when they do what they do, it makes it a little bit more difficult.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
Coach, we appreciate your time as always. Look forward to hearing from you once again
next
Monday. All right.